Canada's public health agency launching a probe into Air Canada's vomit incident. With more on this, let's bring in travel expert Claire Newell from Vancouver. All right, Claire, so as you know, the Public Health Agency of Canada has contacted Air Canada. What more can you tell us about this investigation?
Hi, Jeff and Carolyn. I'm not surprised that the Public Health Agency of Canada is now involved in this. This was just an unbelievable situation. There is no way that anyone should be forced to sit on like wet puke. My phone was blowing up about this. It's revolting. But the thing is that this type of thing happens not on every flight, but certainly every day. I mean, there's a reason that there's a barf bag at every single seat. But the operational procedures, they just were not followed in this case. The reality is that airlines have seat cushions that they can replace the cushions with. And if they didn't, I mean, I've seen seats that are blocked off because gum was on the seat and it completely blocked off. So again, I'm not surprised that they're involved now, and hopefully it will prevent this type of situation ever again from happening because it wasn't right.
Could I add, nor should you be asked to sit on dry puke, wet or dry?
Agreed wholeheartedly. I don't think there's a debate there. Now let's talk about passengers' rights, though, if we could, Claire, because the two passengers were reportedly given a choice of either leaving the plane and actually paying for another flight or being escorted off and being placed on a no-fly list. What is the passengers' rights in a case like this?
Because I don't want to sit on puke or whatever other bodily fluid is there because it happens on flights. A no-fly list, that's just insane to me. The thing is that the airline knew that this type of thing had happened, and before they even boarded, what they should have done is block off those seats, potentially seats around them, like the row in front and the row behind, if there was some spray, and then they should have asked people for a voluntary bump situation. Say, there's not enough seats on the plane. Does anyone want to go on the next flight? Maybe offer some compensation. But there is the fact that those were the options was not right. And that's one of the things that I'm sure that will be investigated as well. I know that the airline has apologized and they have been in touch with the clients, but the options, either of those options, were just acceptable.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's just common sense.
Right.
I think Air Canada needs Claire Newell on speed dial. Just saying.
You're right, though. The voluntary bumping. We've seen that when the flight is overbooked, which happens fairly often. Okay, so this has been the week for biohazard incidents on flights, because then there's the other one on Delta, and here's how the pilot described it.
Negative. It's just a biohazard issue. We've had a passenger who had diarrhea all the way through the airplane, so they want us to come back to Atlanta.
So that flight was 2 hours in and diverted back to Atlanta. Passengers eventually put on another flight, but not before being stuck on that plane for 2 more hours getting back to Atlanta. Should they be compensated for this experience, which wasn't in the brochure?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, for the airlines, it's out of their control. Kind of like weather. Things happen with people. And so what they did was the right thing. It was a biohazard, turning back and getting those passengers reprotected it caused a delay, but they may do a gesture of goodwill and offer some sort of compensation in addition to getting the passenger reprotected and all of the connections that would have happened and been necessary. But just a rough situation all around on that flight, for sure. I would not have been wanting to be on that one.
Oh. Yeah, it's been quite the week when it comes to air travel. And let's go from air travel to Airbnb, because, Claire, this is being called the end of Airbnb in New York City as tight restrictions are set to be enforced there. Can you just briefly go over what those are, and do you think other cities might soon follow?
Yeah, again, this is a big city, and it's definitely going to affect availability. Airbnb is restricted, so no more than people at a given time. The host has to actually register, prove that it's registered Airbnb before it can ever be posted, and the owner has to be present, and it can't be rented for less than 30 days. So it's really, really restricted here. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's not the first city I've heard like that. I live in Vancouver, and it's really restricted here in Vancouver, as well as other big cities around the world like London, Paris, Berlin. So it's tough for the people who rely on this for extra income in New York. It's tough for consumers because it means that it's going to be more expensive to visit New York. But I don't think it's going to be the last city that does this. Wherever there's a housing situation, there is going to be more restrictions on Airbnb.
Okay, let's talk about travel for the upcoming fall-winter season. We're hearing some cheap flights are returning. What advice do you have for those booking?
Yeah, this is a bit of a good news story to end on, because we are seeing some prices come down. Some of the big tour operators like Air Canada Vacations and WestJet Vacations offering some really good early bird specials that are already in the market, and not just for fall, but actually for winter if you book early. And they also are offering some price protection guarantees, so if the price does drop even further. My recommendation still is, if you're going over the holidays when kids are out of school or over a long weekend, make sure you book early to take advantage of some of that. But some of the airlines, the low-cost carriers, are trying to carve out their market share. Some of the flights that have been launched, Porter Airlines is now offering nonstop to 5 destinations in Florida. Lynx adding some hotspots this fall from Toronto as well as Montreal. Hotspots like LA, Scottsdale, or Phoenix, Arizona, Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers, Vegas, and also Canada Jetlines expanding from Toronto. And they're going to places like Montego Bay, also to Orlando, so there'll be lots of flights to Florida, as well as Cancun and Las Vegas. So really good news when there's more seats in the marketplace to some of our favorite destinations here in Canada. It means cheaper prices for everybody.
All right.
Seats.
Yes. You know what? Fingers crossed if you book that flight that both you and all the other passengers don't have an upset tummy.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly.
Claire Newell, thank you so much, Claire. Appreciate it.
You too.